Welcome to the Consciousness Rising podcast. I'm Rebecca Lowrie, and this week I'm delighted to have Kenny Marmarella de Cruz, also known as the Man Whisperer. Kenny comes from a dramatic history of death threats, refugee camps, paternal abandonment, childhood mental health issues, and racism. Eventually, he moved to London, where he became a high-flying adrenaline junkie, distracting him from all the pain he was carrying. After a lot of travel, soul-searching, and transforming his own pain, Kenny now holds men's groups and also women's groups, passing on his skills and tools for transforming your old stories into gold stories. Kenny's been featured in Newsweek magazine and a recent BBC Three documentary, and is a regular contributor to the Huffington Post and RSA blogs. Welcome, Kenny.
Thank you. I'm really chuffed to be here. How strange to listen to that rundown of me. It sounds really quite dramatic.
Well, it kind of is dramatic, isn't it? I mean, you've had so much happen to you in your life, which we'll come to in a minute, that you transformed.
But I guess from the outside, listening to it, looking at it, yeah, it's dramatic and glamorous and all that kind of stuff. Living it was just my life. It was my normality. It was no big deal or no small deal. It was just my story. We've all got old stories that we can turn into gold stories, whether it's refugee camps or a really nasty paper cut. It's the relationship to the paper cut that really matters.
Sure, and like you say, it is a story. Like in the moment, it's the thing that's happening, and then afterwards, it's the story, isn't it? And then what we do with that story is up to us.
Yeah. For me, that's the beginning and end of it. I kept noticing that other people repeat. If it's not specifically the story, if it's not my father abandoned me and my best friends abandoned me, or my mother loved me and all the women loved me and I didn't know how to have boundaries, or whatever it was, it could have been that my body got addicted to trauma, to adrenaline, because my poor father had a very busy, tough life and post-traumatic stress disorder. So, and I guess with a lot of families, at some level, the parents have been through something, the grandparents have been through something, and then comes quirky behavior and, whatever it is. So my body got used to this adrenaline, almost addicted to this. So I might, rather than recreate the same story, my body might need to feed off this adrenaline. So then came working for newspapers and deadlines, or jumping out of planes, or bungee jumping, or whatever it was that gave me that buzz, that gave me the flush of adrenaline that kept me familiar. I wouldn't say safe, because it might be an addiction to not being safe. So it's these stories that kept repeating, and I just thought, need to get over it. I need to try something else. And same with clients. I feel great that I've been able to unlearn my story, and in unlearning what doesn't serve me or what's not true anymore, I picked up the tools for my path, and I guess that's how I follow. That's how I live my life, following the clues rather than Groundhog Day, repeating the same old.
Particular catalyst for that change, or was it a slow evolvement? Was there something that happened that made you think, wait a minute, I see what I'm doing? Or was it something more just gradual?
As you asked that question, one thing sprung to mind, and that was living in a lovely house in Moswell Hill with very close friends, getting really quite successful in the old days when Feng Shui was trendy. It was something that I did and I loved, and I did it with a lot of quick success. So I remember getting successful yet again and having the strange feeling that someone is going to come and knock on my door and want to kill me or lock me up, or, something nasty is going to happen. And I started doing the funny old behaviors of not going to bed until really late, just a fear, not watching TV until, we had a wonderful big lounge and it was all cozy. How many nights did I not even make it to bed because I would just sleep in the lounge watching TV and being safe? And then I kind of thought, what is this all about? Where is this? And I realized, I acknowledged that I had a pattern that I'd do well in whatever profession. I used to be in marketing, I used to be in publicity, the music business, whatever. I'd do well. And then just when it was time to settle or to take it to the next stage, I'd get spooked. Someone or something is going to take this away. And it's not so much that it's going to take it away, but it was more that if I lost it, would I have it in me to make it again, to pick myself up and to make it again? So I avoided success. I avoided stability for fear of losing it. Because in Africa, we lost everything. We lost our homes, we lost our lives. One day, no more going to school, no more going to church, no more anything. We were hiding in the mountains with family because we had the death threats and our phones were tapped and we were followed. So we lost everything, including my father for 9 months. He was 8. But I was an old 8. Now I'm young. But I guess with a busy childhood, I needed to switch on and get away. And I guess also I had John Boy Walton syndrome. So I wasn't quite an adult. I wasn't quite a child. I was responsible in between. And playtime, what's that? Need to survive. So I was an old 8.
Wow. So when you were living in Muswell Hill, you realized something's not working. I'm holding myself back. In fact, you were holding yourself in a place that was familiar.
Exactly. I reached the peak. It was time to make it big. And I had these feelings. But rather than just following through and changing career or moving to another country or, keeping on the run, just thought, no, I know this story. I know what's going on in the background. It's almost like the internal dialogue. I get it. I'm listening to this now. I'm not keeping my head down. I'm not going to survive anymore. I need to get over this and I need to live. I didn't know how. I had no idea.
Dream that you needed to stay in the same place. You woke up out of that dream.
Exactly.
Even though you didn't know what to do with the new world.
Yeah, exactly. And I needed to turn it around. So it's like, I did a lot of work. I've worked a lot of things out myself. And thankfully, I've got some very simple ways of passing this on to clients and letting them, for example, 3 things off the top of my head, letting them ask, is this true right now? Is this going on right now? And the bottom line is, well, only in my head, only in my psyche, only in my feelings. So I'm making it true. But are people actually trying to still track me down and try and kill me or kill my family? No. But at least in that moment, I could take a breath and follow the feeling, and it took me right to where my pause button was down. It took me right to the scene of the crime. So it's like, that is owning me here. That's the charge that's causing this. So I need to make sure that I get present, and what's not true, breathe it away. And in a nutshell, the way I do that is as soon as I'm lost in my head or lost trying to work things out or lost in fear, I take a deep breath in, and as I breathe in, I think, thank you for reminding me who I used to be. And used to be puts it in the past. And
so I want to say that again, because I know that a lot of listeners will be really interested. I've already had emails of people asking me, can you tell us some practical things we can do in our life?
So in any situation, if there is a fear or a charge that's out of control, if someone walks in front of me or stops in front of me and I get enraged and it's like a little bit out of proportion, then it's like, what's really going on here? Because it's no big deal. And that's when I need to take a breath, and in that breath, see where it takes me back to. Follow the feeling from here, follow the feeling back to where it goes, and in a breath, there'll be a flash of something silly or something important or something that was forgotten, and the breath will take me straight back to the scene of the crime, pretty much to where the pause button got depressed.
Right, so where that original feeling came from.
Exactly. And I know that life will keep taking me back there until I release this, and as I release this, I will have so much more life available to me. It'll just open things up.
A constriction on the flow, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you just release it, and then there's flow.
Yeah, my limitation. Life saying, get over this bit, and we can reach you to give you more. Everywhere I go, whatever I do, life will be providing me with clues, with signs and temptations. It's up to me to spot them and to respond. When I'm unconscious, I won't respond. I'll react. I'll buy into the drama, and I'll make a bigger drama out of it, and I know how to do that, and I'll be in control. But come to take a breath, and I can choose how I respond rather than being unconscious and I react. So the first breath is follow the feelings there, see where it goes back to. And then from there, it's like that's the bit that needs healing or owning or making peace with or including or whatever it is. Sometimes it's just for me to come to. And then I'll take a breath. And this is the getting present. As I breathe in, I'll stop thinking and trying to work it out and know everything and justify everything and think everything through, disengaging from life and going into la la land. So as I do the thank you for reminding me who I used to be, that goes in the past. And there's a space in the present. As I breathe out, I simply take part with what's in front of me. I'm present, I'm connected, and none of that owns me anymore.
Right, and then you can make a new choice, which creates a new pattern.
Exactly.
Yeah, which, you know, and as I do similar stuff, and I always say it's a practice, you know, because we try to be as conscious as we can in our life, and then something triggers us. It's that thing that we need a reminding of, you know.
Yeah.
We take the breath and we say, okay, thank you for the reminder, and now I'm going to make a new choice.
Yeah.
And you go along for a while making that new choice, and then one day you're tired or distracted and you make the other choice again.
Here's another opportunity to adjust. And that's all I do in my life is I keep adjusting. I keep getting present and connected.
I love that. I think that's really useful.
Another one that I do is I'm very aware of the words that I use. Not only out speaking to other people, but even in my mind. And this is one of my bugbears. In the men's groups for years, I've had these little buttons from Staples, which is what do you call it, office stationery company. Press the button and it says, that was easy. So I first got them. So when people say something that's difficult, once it's out, you press the button and it's a celebration. And it's easy because there's nothing to think about. That doesn't own me anymore. But I call them butt-ins because, you know, polite England, people don't know when to speak or, you know, how to butt in or anything. So people can just press them to butt in. And I get trigger happy with the butt-ins because when people say you rather than I, then I'm on the button straight away. It's like, wait a minute, that's confusing to me.
I mean, when they say something like, you know how you always say please when you mean yeah, and what they mean is when I say yeah. It's hard for people to own stuff. I think we're not taught to think that way or to language ourselves that way. And also claiming something in front of a group is really vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's another thing as well for me, and that's justifying. If I say you or we, then I'm saying, and we all do this, don't we? And it's okay, and this is normal, isn't it? But that keeps everyone, consciously or unconsciously, stuck in the victim crowd. And when I was chairman or key member of the victim club, then, you know, rule number one, you do not abandon the other victims in the victim club. We're safe, aren't we? We will not cause harm. We will not challenge each other. We will not this. We will not that. We are the victim club. Rah, rah, rah. I realised that the biggest service I could give myself or anyone else would be to be true to myself and live that life. I used to be, I can't leave the victim club or my friends or my family or whoever it was. I cannot leave unless I take them with me. What kind of a horrible person would abandon and move on selfishly with, you know, blah, blah, blah.
There's I don't know if you know Lisa Nichols. She's an amazing speaker and talks a lot about making the best of your life. I saw this interview where someone asked her she was very, very poor, couldn't afford to buy her son nappies, really bad state. And she decided, I'm going to change this, and he said to, how you were living in a poor neighborhood with poor people. How did you get out of that? And she said, I made the decision one day that I did not want to be the queen of that block. And I was like, wonderful. Oh, yeah, and that she said, I couldn't help them by staying there with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And, the interviewer, what happened to be Steve Harvey, I don't know if you know Steve Harvey, what he said also, it gives me chills every time I think of it. He said that his father told him when he was young that the best way you can help poor people is to not be one of them.
Yeah.
And that made my brain melt, I was working on money issues at the time, and I thought, I have that collaboration thing that you're talking about. Look at us poor people down here, or we're all, so hard done by or whatever. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the world, And, I'm talking about it in terms of money, but it applies to anything, whatever you're making yourself a victim of.
Even joy, freedom, rest, peace, anything, love, health, anything. And I was used to carrying people on my shoulders. Carry someone on your shoulders, how are they going to abandon? It's not going to happen. Who could possibly attack a martyr?
Look, I'm down and out, and I'm carrying you on my back.
Exactly. What I longed for was to have people that I love and care for next to me, in front of me, behind me, to have company. But I didn't know how to do that. Plus, I was fearful of abandonment, humiliation, rejection, all the normal stuff. Yeah. So I realized that the biggest gift I could give myself and give them was to not just leave and to live life in a different way. You could say a stupid way because it's more vulnerable, there are more risks, etc., etc. But that's living rather than surviving. But not just leave, but to demonstrate it in my being, not to apologize for it, not to drag people along. So I will be true to myself and authentic and be me in the way I live my life. And if anyone wants to know, or anyone wants to come along, or anyone wants, whatever, then I'm there.
Right.
But I'm feeding what I want for myself and what I want for these people. I'm giving energy to what I want to grow rather than giving energy to what I want to go. And right. For myself and all of these people, I wanted the lack and the fear to go. So I stopped giving that energy. The thing that gave me permission was the realization that I was being a parasite. Nasty. Now, with a word like that, I couldn't carry on. That's the get out of jail free card. Parasitic.
That's a big thing to wake up to too, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Crap, look what I'm doing.
And I needed to take it that far to give myself permission. I was not brought up like that. I was brought up that, you accept everyone, you're nice and you're this and you're that and whatever. That's not empowered.
No, and it's not boundaried either, is it?
Exactly. It's not created. And boundaries? Boundaries are for rude people that don't care. That's what nice people, that's what I used to think, and the nice people around me used to think. It's like boundary, that means rejection. So I guess the old-fashioned way that I was used to was accept everyone, include everyone, obviously bitch behind their backs and judge them behind their backs, but tell them what they want to hear, act nice, be polite, etc., etc. And when you're bored of bitching about them and you can't take any more, abandon.
Yeah. So everyone gets hurt.
Yeah. And also, that was the perfect way to avoid intimacy, to avoid vulnerability. And I had to learn that boundaries is where people meet. And once there's a meeting, then it's the dance. It flows and it changes and it, and yeah, it is vulnerable. It's alive. It's true.
It's safe though, isn't it? Like having the boundaries, if you know the boundaries of your relationship with a person or a place or whatever it is, then you're free to blossom within that.
Yeah.
You know, the boundary
It's,
creates the container that the plant can grow in.
yeah. Do you know, and one step before that is once I started with boundaries, I began to actually exist. Without boundaries, I didn't exist because I was coming from am I? Am I safe? Am I appropriate? Am I going to be abandoned? Am I causing harm? Am I this, that, and the other? I handed power over to be whatever people wanted. Exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever you want me to be, whatever you want me to hear, I'll give it to you, and everything's safe, and there'll be no trouble, and everything's fine. So
Yeah.
you could say it was controlling in a strange passive aggressive way, but it was handing power over, and I didn't exist.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? It's kind of like um, you tell me who you want me to be so I can be that so that I feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that way I can't be abandoned, I can't be rejected, I can't be. Exactly. I can't even be criticized. I will not be embarrassed. I dedicated my life to never being embarrassed. Forget about anything else. And you know, in a lot of other countries, I have heard the term, I don't know if this is considered racist, that an Englishman's dream is to go from birth to death without any embarrassment. And you know, it's not an English thing. It's an every, yeah. Some cultures, some people more than others. But yeah, I was dedicated to that. How could I possibly? And you know, especially little boys can be easily controlled through humiliation and abandonment. And it's very easy to humiliate or embarrass a boy to do whatever you want that boy to do. And you know, there are so many studies done with the way that boys are treated, even in school, parents, whatever, girls are treated. Boys are naughty and deserve punishing. Girls are cute and they're adorable and you don't punish them or what. It's a funny thing. But testosterone, how are you going to control testosterone? Embarrass.
Well, yeah, I was going to say with consciousness and education, but
That comes later. But you know, and I'm not a parent. I've got a wonderful goddaughter. So I've been around a child recently with my friend and his wife, and they've got an older son, and I've seen how it can take lives over. Lack of sleep and work and worry and what do I do with the injections and you know what all of that kind of stuff. So I don't blame parents. I don't blame anyone for not being able to cope, being overwhelmed, getting it wrong. I've got a friend who's newborn. They didn't sleep for, what was it, 2 months? Because as soon as she lay down, she'd get reflux. So they took it in turns to sit up through the night holding her. And that's like 2 months. So for me, parenting's not about getting it right and bad parents, you did also. It's about adjusting, admitting when something's wrong and adjusting it and explaining it to the child so the child's also allowed to get things wrong, turn them around and get them right. So it's like it's that adjustment that counts.
actually, I'm curious about something because you've used the term adjustment a few times, which I like, and also previous to that, you brought up about relanguaging yourself, which is something I'm really interested in, and I try to be aware of how I language myself, my own thoughts, because of course, you know, you are listening to your own thoughts, aren't you? And then how we language ourselves out in the world. You know, when I am working with people around sexuality, a lot of people will use the word that makes my skin crawl, but about performance, about how they performed sexually. And I think there is a place for it, but generally, no, we don't perform it. We be present in it. And so
Exactly.
I talk to clients a lot about the language we use around sexuality, the language we use around who we are and what we be and what we bring. So I'm curious to hear a little bit from you about how you might work with clients or your men's groups around language, or how you do that with yourself even.
Do you know, one of the things that I trained myself to listen to, or to tell myself. It was great fun. It started off with me thinking, okay, so I used to have OCD. It was one of my addictions or mental health issues like OCD, body dysmorphic disorder, Tourette's, PTS. I wish these were qualifications. I had so many letters, it was wonderful. But with the OCD, I would need to be in control. Things would need to be in order. Things would need to be in their place. And there was no space for me or for anything. It was just in that way. The way that I broke that, or one of the ways that I broke that, was I'd do something. And I remember one of the things I did, that was just wrong or a bit weird, was...
Do you mean wrong in quotes, or do you...
Wrong as in, this is against the OCD rules.
Okay, got it.
Or this is against the norm, or this is against what I know. This just feels wrong. And quite simply, it was brushing my teeth in the shower. Now, it just doesn't feel right. That would be in a way like grabbing a dirty great sausage and plunging it towards someone at Waitrose. It's wrong. It does not but it took little things like that, or doing things in a different order, and the words I used in my mind was, that's not like me. How liberating was that? And then the feeling of my heart opening, my body relaxed, just something changed inside when I'd brush my teeth, or I'd do something in a different order, or I wouldn't do something. And rather than fear, that's not like me. And then...
So were you consciously doing that? Like, had you made a conscious decision, I want to change some of these behaviors, and that's the tool you decided to use?
Yeah. I didn't go out to think, how shall I do this? It's as soon as I caught myself unconscious, doing something in the way that I'd always do it, in that split second, with no thought, I'd do it in a different order. So it could be that I would shave before brushing my teeth, or brush my teeth before shaving, or that I would put my shoes on in a certain room before, and it would just be the slightest little thing. It could be, so for example, with compulsive checking, rather than going back to the front door 3 times, I would go once and I'd think, I'll take a photo, or I'll take a breath, and then I would be present when I check the door, and I don't need to come back because I was thinking, ruminating, whatever. I wasn't even there when I was doing it. So I would find different ways to set myself free. And then the language changed from, that's not like me, because I was breaking the mold, into, that is so like me, because me became this person that wasn't owned by my own controlling mind. So, exactly. And it's just magnificent. And it's just these little games. And for me, the most important thing is to do it in this moment. It's not to read another 20 million books or spend all my money on workshops. And when I go there, then, maybe I'll be fixed and it'll be different there, and then I'll come back to my silly ass life.
Else is responsible for doing it to me or for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think those things are helpful. I think that those things create a support system, whether that's meeting other people or learning tools or reading something that triggers a thought in your mind that helps. Like, it's supportive. But unless you're doing the work yourself in the present moment, nothing's going to do the shifting. Our clients can come to us and we can help them do amazing things, and yet they still have to go back in the world and apply the stuff practically.
Exactly. And for me, that's one of the most important things about the groups, whether it's the men's groups or the women's groups or even private clients, but more with the groups, is the group is not going to be a safe place and the outside world is the nasty place. This group, right here and right now, is where you can experiment with who you really are and let go of the bits that you no longer need to be. Let go of the survival strategies. Let go of being the class clown or the quiet one or the, whatever the game, whatever the personality, the survival personality is. Well, maybe it's restricting now. So experiment. Ask for feedback in the group.
Yes.
People can ask the craziest things like, I just grunted. Did anyone hear? Because then rather than thinking, oh my God, everyone knows I've just grunted. It's like, what's going on? Or I just said something differently, or I just used a different tone, or I just said something that might have been confrontational. Or can you tell me every time I seem apologetic or weak or whatever? So there's a feedback rather than just paranoia and, the secret life. So for me, it's the experimental ground, and then that can be taken out into the world. But it's a bridge, and it's a safe place to play, experiment, ask questions, learn from each other, have a jolly good laugh, or cry. But surprisingly, not that many. More men cry in groups when they are asked, "What do you want?" than any of the pain or drama they've been through.
Really? Wait, moment for that. So, more men cry in groups when they're asked, what do they want?
What do you want? How would you like life to be? What do you want?
Yeah, I get that actually. I get that. I've had a group that I'm in recently bring that question up, and I realized, apart from holidays on the beach, I'm not really sure. Well, it could be seen as a simple question, but actually, it's a quite deep and profound question because we're not taught to create our life. We tend to live. We're taught. We're not taught, but we live our lives by default often.
It's the old unconscious survival script.
Right. We're expected to go to school, and then we're expected to maybe go to uni or get a job, and then we work for 25 years, get a gold watch at the end. I mean, times are breaking that down now. It is that all that paradigm is breaking down. But what that means is we're all left going, I don't know how to do this way.
I don't know how to be me. I know how to be someone's property. And this goes back to the from am I to I am. Am I being a good worker? Am I going to pay my bills? Am I safe? Etc. I am is coming from my truth, my choice, my authenticity, my heart, my soul, and my balls.
Can I ask you something? And this, we don't have to go down the whole tangent of this, but would you also say then, in that place, that the I am is coming from consciousness or higher consciousness, or that, there's a whole big thing about there's personal consciousness and higher consciousness. Is it one and the same, or does it channel? I don't know. But that I am perhaps is the channeling down of consciousness that expresses itself through us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in one moment, it could be hugely expansive, including the universe and whatever God or gods or religion or non-religion or nature or whatever it is. In the other moment, it could be beans or peas. It has to have to be a big spiritual thing. And sometimes beans or peas can be a big spiritual thing. It doesn't.
Present with that is the thing, isn't it? That's it. And even there's a whole tantric exercise around eating the beans, let's say, and being present with the taste and the texture and the flavor and the heat and whatever it is.
Yeah.
That can make eating something a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to take it one step further, there's from am I to I am. And then what I realized with the men's groups and with a lot of men, and I think this comes from the playground, is I am one and I am one of. With a lot of people, it's an addiction to I need to be one of the boys, I need to be one of the men, I need to be accepted, I need to be part of the team. It's that inclusion. And it could be at the cost of me, where in the groups, so there are boundaries. Within these boundaries, I exist. I have space for me. And therefore, being one, that one can be included as the one-off, rather than we're all unconscious, being together and accepting each other. It's I'm conscious, being with me and accepting me. And therefore, I can be conscious, being with you and accepting being part of. It doesn't mean we all need to be supporting Manchester United or, whatever the bonding thing is. It's
that when you have your own consciousness and you take that into the group, that you don't lose yourself. You maintain your own boundaries, because it's very easy to say, oh, well, everyone else is eating pizza, even though I don't think pizza is very good for me, I don't want it. Yeah. If you've got that self-awareness and that consciousness of the I am, then you can say, I want to hang out with all of you, but I'm going to eat the salad. And instead of that being like soul-destroying, you don't have to run over your own boundaries in order to be part of. But it's an ongoing practice, isn't it?
And what I've noticed, to carry on with the pizza and salad, is then when one of the guys says, no, I'm going to eat salad, it's two or three would say, we're allowed to choose salad? But I thought that blah, 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 blah. I thought we all had to sell out and pretend that we want to be victims of our families or abuse women or act like some jumped up, hyperactive, testosterone fueled adolescent. Or no, be yourself. When I am myself, I'm giving permission to everyone to be themselves.
Exactly. What a relief that is. What a blessing to those around you. You know, and it's a blessing to you because you get to be who you are and not sell that out, as you say. Yeah. And you know, this, I don't know about this language, but it raises other people up to be themselves instead of them having to feel like in order to fit in, they have to drop who they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which, you know, I think comes from an old primal unconscious place of wanting to survive. You know, if we maybe stood out from the tribe, we would be killed or left behind or something. But we are not cavemen anymore, you know. And so that may have been the way, but it is not the way anymore. Now we can choose differently. Yeah. And that benefits the whole.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very, very important key point, is we can choose. Where I'm not sure, well, I am actually quite sure that my parents didn't have the luxury or the choices that I have. My grandparents didn't, my great-grandparents didn't. And the same goes for example, choice of where to live, who to hang out with, what work to do, what type of friends I have. And then it can go much deeper into, actually, I can choose my feelings. I don't have to work hard in order to earn my happiness when I have this, this, and this, and this. That's just some nonsense story that's simply not true right now. Right now, I can choose to be happy and I can choose to be sad. And I know quite recently I was angry about something. I don't even remember what. And I was speaking to a friend and he said, oh, well, you know, when I'm angry, I just grab a bat and you need to get a bat and you need to bash this. And it's like, don't tell me what to do with you come near my anger and I will break your arm. Exactly. And I really wanted to own my anger, not for my anger to own me, but I needed to be with my anger and to feel it. And when I was ready and I got the message, or when I was done with it, then I can choose to let it go. It's not I'm going to avoid sadness, I'm going to avoid pain, I'm going to manipulate myself through some bubble of a life. It's like, no, these are my feelings and I can choose to keep them or to let them go. And it's not good or bad. It's just something that's passing. Let it all pass. And I know, and this is a big one in the men's groups, as well as with everyone in daily life, is to breathe and let things pass. So someone might say something painful or something that resonates with others because it happened to them in their playground or their parents split or whatever. And listening to these traumatic or painful stories, it's so often the case that people hold their breath. Because it's like, exactly. Meanwhile, whether it's your story or someone else's, breathe. And if it means you feel something, then great. That means that feeling can pass. Breathe and let it pass. Hold on to it, and it's being fed. You know,
I just think that that's a message. You know, if someone's telling a story and it triggers that contraction in you, that's great because now you know, oh, hang on, I've got a button around that. I've got a trigger. It's my trigger. Yeah. So, you know, the person sitting next to me didn't get triggered by it. So it's my trigger. It's not the story that's wrong or bad. So let me go inside and see where that goes back to what we started talking about at the beginning. Let me go back and see what's that pause button. Where's that contraction? Exactly. Then I can heal it, release it, whatever it is, sit with it, love it, and then it's gone. And so if someone... I mean, nobody can cause you to feel anything, but exactly. But when you feel those feelings come up, they're just messages, aren't they? To let you know where you need to, I would say, shine the light of consciousness, or another way of putting it is send some healing or some love, and then the shift occurs, doesn't it?
Yeah, Yeah. And other people can only treat me in a way that I'm already treating myself. If I treat myself with disrespect, even if it's in my mind, then I will demand that other people follow suit. If I criticize myself, I will demand that other people criticize me. If I self loathe because my nose is too big or whatever it is, or because I'm too fat or too hairy or too whatever it is, then I will make sure that not only do I judge other people for all of these things that I hate about myself, but I will isolate and I will get other people at whatever level to treat me bad because of blah, blah, blah. So I want to change the way the universe and whatever it is I manifest, and you know, the most efficient way for me to change anything is through the inner planes. And to go back,
Signal. I can't think of the word I want, but we send out radio waves all the time. You know what we think and feel about ourselves, we send out in the universe, and that's what comes back.
yeah,
You know, so if you change the inner, and you know, we're throwing that around like, we'll just change the inner and your life will change. It is simple, and it is also complex, and it's something that we have to do ourselves, and it's also something that we often need support and help with. So I don't want to just throw it around as if, you know, you could just change your life like that. You can, and also we need help and support, and we need patience.
yeah. The theory is wonderful and it's easy and it makes perfect sense. The practice, when everything's easy and fine and dandy, yeah, it's quite easy. But when it really matters and when something's up, out the window. The most efficient tool I use to change someone from the inside, to know what's going on, is voice dialogue. Do you know voice dialogue?
I know a little bit, but say something about that.
So, voice dialogue is when I dialogue with different parts of a person.
Well, yes, I do that. I do it a slightly different way, but I know it. It's very gestalty, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And especially with men, very often, I always start with speaking to their inner protector, the part that's been protecting them all their lives. So I ask them to leave their chair and move to wherever they want, stand, sit, whatever. Some of them walk around, whatever. And then I speak to that part, not the part that was sitting in the chair, which is, what do they call it, the aware ego, but it's only that specific part. And then I find out from the protector, when did the protector show up? What's its job? What does it want for the person, and how it might be restricting the person if that's relevant, and so it goes on and on. I get to know that part. And very often, the protector is running the show in order to help that person survive.
Of course.
Forget about it.
It's always from love, isn't it?
Exactly.
It could be because a previous experience was scary, and I love you, and so I'm going to protect you now. Yeah. But we don't realize that those mechanisms or those voices are the ones that are still in play.
How does the psyche know? How would the psyche dare to even consider that the war is over?
Right.
That's the way it goes. So once I speak to the protector, I go back to the center, to the aware ego, to the person. And then the favorite places that I like to go are the inner man emerging. And sometimes, sometimes the protector won't really tone things down unless there's another part to work with that's going to move things forward. So the protector is survival. That's a really important foundation. And then comes further to that, there's meeting life. You know, you were just talking about the frequencies that go out. Well, fine. But then when they come back, the protector would go, don't know that one. You're not going to have it. We're going to carry on with, control, survive, same old story. We know how to do this.
Don't let anything new in. Don't try new things. Yeah, just stay with.
So silly. Don't be so frivolous. It's like, do you want to die? Do you want to be humiliated? Do you want something bad to happen?
Trying to protect you.
Exactly. Where the inner man, for me, is the part that holds the space and can delegate to the different parts. The wise man, the protector, the adventurer, the admin person, the lover, the seducer, the whatever it is that's necessary, the one that can put up shelves. It doesn't have to be the one dominant personality. So this man can be consistent and solid. And again, the protector might react where the inner man is able to accept and respond.
Yeah.
Very different game.
It's fascinating when we talk, Kenny, that although our work is different, it's also so similar.
Yeah.
So similar. I do a lot of very similar work. I use different terminology for it, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that about us. It's like company.
Well, when we met, didn't I thought you're the man version of me.
I remember you saying that.
Your understanding about how you work with men and how you work with yourself, your own personal journey, very much resonates with me and the work that I do and the work that I'm passionate about. And when you talk about it, like I say, although your language is slightly different, it's the same. It's the same meaning behind it and the same process. Just about, you know, mine's a little bit more energetic, and I take the person in, and they talk to those parts of themselves. But it's pretty much the same thing. It's very exciting to me.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, we're going to draw to a close in a second. You've shared quite a few tips, which have been really helpful, and I'm really excited about that. I'm sure our listeners will be excited about that. I'm curious, do you have any regular daily or weekly practices or rituals that you do for yourself? Like, for example, I tried to go to the sauna and meditate once a week. Recently, it's been once a month. But, you know, that's the thing. I write in my gratitude journal every morning. Even some days I write pages, some days it's just 2 or 3. But I try to have some practices in place that kind of support me in my journey so I can support others in their journey. Do you have any regular rituals or things that you do daily? Or not daily, but regularly?
You know, there's a part of me that wishes I was a good spiritual person. I know. But so many people do I meditate at this time every day for so long, and I eat this and I do this. I don't. It's not like that for me. Because
I want to be a good spiritual person. I do it because that's what keeps me clear.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. I know. I totally understand that. And yeah, there's an ego part of me that would love to say blah blah blah. The truth is, what I love about the men's groups, I get to go to all of them. It's a space for me to check in with myself and to see where I am, who I am, what's going on. It's my space. When I meditate, and I meditate when I want, where I want, it could be sitting quietly, it could be as I'm walking, then again, it's my space to just let go, see what comes up, breathe it by, let it go. That could be anywhere, anytime.
Well, and the work that you're doing with the groups, with your private clients, you, like you said, you are working on yourself in order to do that. You know, we teach what we need to learn, right? So
it's a way of life. It's not separate to me. It's a way of life. I really enjoy exercise. I've got my personal trainer, Alex, is my best friend. He's a wonderful guy. I haven't bothered all winter because I can't be bothered.
Isn't he barking at you to do stuff?
Of course he is. But, you know, we hang out on the phone, we see each other, we speak, we go walking in the forest. And that's one of the thing I love to do most with my closest friends is we walk in the forest. We get grounded, we talk, we're silent, we laugh, we really look at the beauty of, you know, it's noticing the way that the leaves open up, the sacred geometry of it, noticing the colours, feeling just, I guess, connected with the ground and with it's that expansiveness. I love it. And time can be very tight sometimes. You know, my friends, like my friend Shandor, who I'm the godfather of his daughter, I remember when we got up at 5 o'clock in the morning because the only slot that we had was was it between 7 and 10:30. So if we were up at 5 and we did our thing, then we'd meet at the edge of the forest and we'd get a few hours of walking and grounding and being together and being with ourselves. And it was just, we were set up for days, for weeks.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of nature, and being healed by nature and walking in nature and connecting to nature is a big part of my.
Yeah.
I can't say daily because when it's cold, I'm not as big on it, but regular practice. Yeah.
I needed to teach myself to breathe. And one thing that I tell people when they're not used to breathing, when it's like stop breathing and working out how am I going to survive this, what do people want to hear, whatever, is every time you hear the word and, you take a deep breath. Every time you pass through a doorway, you take a deep breath. It's little triggers like that just to get present, get grounded, and make some space. I would say the key of all my work is space. Space to be me, space to be conscious. And that can be in the forest, it can be in meditation, it's just a breath. The breath will pass whatever needs to pass. The breath will make me present and grounded and connected. And the breath will allow me to take part in to respond to what life's giving me. And I feel that once my clients are switched on, once they're aware and they know everything that's happened to them and why it's happened and the histories, once the code is cracked, then they meet life. Life brings the most incredible signs and temptations. And the way to know the difference between a sign and a temptation, as far as I'm concerned, is to take a breath and feel it. This is bigger than any logic. This is bigger than anything that's happened before. And the biggest risk of doing this kind of work, I feel, is living into a bigger life, living into the unknown. So how to navigate that? Because, most of my life, I would only do and choose what I've done and what I've chosen. And the best I could ever achieve and live is the best that I've ever had in the past. That I don't really want, but that's control.
Kenny, I could talk to you forever and ever and ever and ever, but we don't have time to do that forever and ever today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and stories and, your true authentic self.